All right, guys, what's up? This is, I think it's week 3 of technical work, maybe week 4. I don't know. Been off a few days. Took a little bit of vacation, try to push the build a little bit further ahead. Lost a couple days of it. One wasn't feeling well one day, and some family stuff going on the other. But still made a big old chunk of progress. So when we left off, we had the interior completely stripped. There's still obviously this back hatch because I'm waiting to still figure out where exactly what I'm cutting. Talk about that in a second. But as you can see, a good chunk of the interior is back in. We got the headliner, which is a gigantic pain in the ass to put in alone. I hate sunroofs. If I can have the option to never buy one with a car that even though likely the next car I have will probably have a pano sunroof because I want a station wagon in German, so it's probably going to have one by default. But this thing was the track. We're gonna have that thing upholstery cleaned. This kid exploded a Coke can back there, but the motor or the shade track assembly that's in the back there. The only way to get the roller to shut down, or to shut up, I should say, is basically to get some sort of foam wedged against it, which it works, and the shade and everything operates still correctly and fully, but what a pain in the butt to make that thing actually get quiet. And given whatever sub ends up back here, the 24, 218s, I need that to be super rock solid, but now this whole assembly is super solid. I can't make it resonate. But yeah, what a labor sponge. But that was the piece that I wanted back in because I basically got to work top down and bottom up with putting the car back together. But the headliner's in, it's secure. All the wires are back. All of the lights work in the visors, and there's a couple in the rear handles. So that's good. Sunroof operates. Glass works, shade works, so we're good to go on that. What we did in the car, and I've put some of these liner panels back in, but that's all CLD'd, all CLD. You can see some pieces there. We basically did, I'm gonna say 70% coverage on the floor with Mega Resonix CLD, and then we actually have the carpet back in, and about half of the vehicle. There's still the other piece, which is up on the hood, which again is waiting until I cut what I need to back here. But we got the 2 panels, so the carpet is in 3 or 4 pieces in here. There's drivers, passengers, middle, and then rear, if you want to call it. But again, you can start to see how heavy the CLD coverage was. I cut out basically the conservative area of where the front sub's going to be, but you can see how there's really not much area showing. Everywhere that you see removed in here, it's better angle. You can see the extent of the fiber mat. So there's 1/2-inch fiber mat essentially from this point forward on the vehicle. There's at least that on the entire floor on top of the Mega CLD. In the driver's area here, there's kind of a plastic floor pan that's in between the carpet and the metal floor, because you have these kind of removable, there's some electronic components under here. It's snapped in, but that's what that snaps into. And so below that, there's kind of like these chambers in the frame. And so you have like some places that have 6 inches of fiber mat. I expect there to be a massive difference in just the ride quality of this car. Just like the sheer amount of fiber mat and CLD that is in this car is insane. Like I said, all of these boxes are just fiber mat. And I still got to chew through a whole bunch of it. You'll see when I get to the back panels. We've been working through some of it today, but the amount of sound treatment that's in this thing is just insane. So I'm really excited to take it on the road after the fact, because it was pretty quiet on the road already. It's an overland. It's got air ride suspension, so it's fairly smooth already, but it should be pretty insane. Like, it's going to be insane now. So, all right. So what else did we do up front? So the mid-bass are in. We did those adapters. I made a little video today showing the little tips and tricks about how to use those speaker strips, basically creating a 3D printed ring that goes between the speaker and the actual door. So it allows you to put the CCF strip on that without actually having to put it on the speaker. So you can take the speaker in and out and you don't ruin the CCF strip. So check out my Instagram reels for that. But these are good to go now. I'm not going to cover them up yet. I will probably temporarily cover them up, but I just need to work through with Matt on 3D scanning, because basically I got to 3D scan the whole front interior, and that includes the doors. So basically Matt is looking to have me, I got to drop the front seats back in because he uses the headrests as aiming reference because we're doing sail mounted tweeters. So he uses that as kind of point of reference. And so I got to scan the whole front dash, including the 2 front doors with the sails. And then basically the way the scan works is you can scan with everything in terms of interior panels in the car. And then I can strip the doors out, take the sails out, and take the A-pillars out and scan again in the same scan. It ends up being a huge file, but it allows Matt to kind of see both the base with panels and without panels, so you can make sure that we are accommodating for clearances and things like that. So that's speakers and pieces in the front. Those are all, there's some XT60s on those mid-bass. So another piece, what we did is brought some wires forward, because obviously we're putting carpet back in and we wanted to run wires before. It has to go in all these sill channels, and we got to make sure that's all secure and run under that. So up front here, we have our source. I just have that taped up and out the way, but basically this will tuck in nice and tight here. So what we have is bunch of backups and primary sources. So our primary source, the intention is to have USB-C directly to an iPhone that is going to be set up on a little wireless charging dock that you'll see. I have it on the center console, but it'll be essentially right here. And so we intend to have that be just digital direct with a wireless charger for the phone, and then the phone goes USB to the USB HEC, which works really well with the USB-C iPhones and iPads with the Brax HEC USB card. So we're going to use that as our primary source. What I also have up here is a pair of digital coax cables. So those are, let's see those, yeah, right there. So basically my intent is to bring one just in case we need an SMSL and we want to use coax. We have that up here. The other one is intended, I'm going to put a female end, and Mr. Joe Davis over at RSD Cables. So I basically have a female, so I'll put a male end on the car, and this has got a female end, and then a 90 to digital coax, because the client has a Astle and Kern digital player. So we'll have that kind of looped up in the center console for when he wants to use that. There's also an optical cable in case the digital coax fails or gives us issues. We also have optical up here. It's also good to have for, I know Miguel likes that, to plug directly into his Octacapture to generate signal with Smart. There's also a, I don't know if you can see it very easily, but yeah, we have a USB up here. This is purely to interface with the DSP, so you can be sitting in the driver's seat, not have to run an extension, literally just bloop, bloop, plug that baby right in, and you're good to go from the driver's seat to start tuning. And then the last piece is the conductor cable that's up here with plenty of slack to reach in that center console, which I'll show you in a second. So those wires were run, so signal, I don't care about running signal power. This is just more for convenience. So this runs up in the sill channel and then ends up out here. So I have some extra, obviously some extra slack here to make that work. Likely the DSP is going to end up in the front anyways, so I got plenty of slack. I also have a backup plan that the DSP, depending where it ends up, or where the sub ends up, I may float the DSP above the sub. And so again, there's enough slack in here to let me do either configuration, but we'll tuck that to the side for now. You're also seeing some other wires. So the other side of the car, this contains my 0 gauge runs to the battery up front, which we put a new battery in today. 0 gauge OFC, obviously. We got 10 gauge that runs to the front sub location, front woofer, sorry. Then there's also the optical for the Amp Pro. So we're using a Pack Amp Pro to interface to the OEM head unit because we're going to leave the OEM head unit as is. But in case the client wants to, well, we plans to use it for like Bluetooth calls, navigation, and potentially AM, FM, XM if he gets really excited about listening to the radio. He'll have that option. So we have, again, just giving options, making sure that we have the connectivity to be as seamless as possible. So the Amp Pro is just perfect for that. So there is a optical that runs up to the front, and the Amp Pro will live somewhere in the dash because it doesn't have a lot of slack in the harness, likely just lives behind the head unit or just above the glove box. So that's what all of these wires are. Oh, and there's also a this gray wire here is a 7 conductor 16 gauge 7 conductor. So my plan is, because I have the OEM harness here and we're going to use a pack harness to integrate with that, I will use that for everything except the two subs, the mid-range, because there is no mid-range in this car. So I need to run new wires there. But I'll use it for the mid-bass, the tweeters, the rear fill will all run through the factory harness. And so in that 7 wires that we have in that gray combo wire, we have 4 that get used by mid-range, 2 that are spare, and the 7th one will be my remote trigger from the Amp Pro, and then I'll run that back to a relay out here, or I'll go from Amp Pro to DSP, DSP to the relay. Relay will ignite all of the 6 amps that are in here, and so that should make it a lot more reliable. Even though the Brax can definitely turn on 6 amps, I'm not going to take a risk. I'm going to make sure that's got plenty of juice to make sure those stay on. So, but that is all extra slack here. Everything's taped and it's actually loomed. Let's see if you can actually see some of it now that it's pretty much buried, but yeah, you can see. So all the stuff that's buried, you have one big chunk here. That's the 2 0 gauge wires, because we ran full length ground back to the battery. And then underneath is the remainder of the wires. So that 10 gauge, that 7 conductor, the optical run underneath. So those are all zip tied and secured, and they run under the sill channels and fit nicely. And so you got a nice bundle slack wire of here for your 10 gauge, the optical, and the 7 conductor. And then today we got the D4900 from Excess Power put in. So we also put a main fuse here. So I plan to have a circuit breaker out back for just kind of quick service, because in order to get to this, obviously still got to have a fuse in first 18 inches from the positive terminal to there. So we still needed that. But in order to get to this, you have to remove the front seat, which is not obviously ideal. So we still have the ability to so we still have the ability to kind of service, or if anything goes wrong, we can kill the power very quickly with the circuit breaker in the back. But this allows us to comply with competition rules and just from a safety perspective. So you got an A&L fuser here. So this pops off, put in the A&L fuse, and then that gets covered. And then this is all nice and tidy. Everything's been properly protected, loomed, tinned and crimped. So everything is tight. This thing is charged up to 13.8 volts, being maintained on the wall with our little charger. And so when this is all set, this clips in here. And boom, that's it. So yeah, lots of sound treatment was done. Oh, literally haven't shown you the rest of what's going on out back here. Yeah, so this is working through the sub. Then today we also did all of these panels with CLD and fiber mat in various thicknesses. I have a bunch of the original. I'm preserving my last box of Mega. There's like 15 sheets because I got to do the dash and then the area around where the sub is. So I'm holding on to that. I have about 20, maybe 25 sheets of the original CLD. So I've been using that for all the body panels, and we got a couple big ones left. But one thing that I'll show you guys here. So this usually sits in the center console. This is purely a off-road air ride height. Never ever gets used, so this pops out really easily. I'm going to talk to Steve Cook, who did this in a Grand Cherokee build himself, which is he removed this. He put a director here. I'm not going to use the director because I don't like it. We're going to do a conductor and then probably a not as big as my hand, but some sort of wireless mount, or a magnetic mount with wireless charging for the phone, and then have the cable pop out with the USB-C for that as kind of the daily location, because again, you got center console, so this is gonna be really convenient to operate that. And then what Steve Cook did, and I'm gonna see if I can steal the plans, but if not, Matt and I will figure it out with some 3D scanning, is basically to 3D print a little housing and then put that into the glove box here. And then you have a hole here with all the remainder of the sources that he needs access to, but likely this will just end up tucked away in there. And it's only 3 wires, so I'll be able to splice that, no problem, and extend the harness. It might even reach as it is. So that's that plan. Then this is just a whole bunch of sound treatment. This is center console pieces, rear ceiling kind of locks in. These are the 2 D-pillar pieces that have the openings for the rear fill. These are awesome. So basically the rear fill, yeah, it sits like this. And so I got those taken out. I have some Karma Inspire 2s going in there. I really just need to get the speaker home with me on some calipers and then get some adapters printed to land on these. But D-pillars, those are the front cowl kicks. I've only done the passenger, or only done the driver side. Passenger side I haven't done yet. Waiting to get to the front sub because I may need to cut that, and I don't want to put CLD on it if I'm going to cut it. These are C-pillars, the upper C-pillars. Nice and good areas to get some 2-inch in there. Those are just the snap-in that tied trim pieces together. Then you got B-pillars. So B-pillars I like to really heavily focus on. They're really close to you, a lot of moving parts. I spent a lot of time with, you have this mechanism that moves, so put some foam here at the very bottom, so that applies just a little bit of pressure to prevent that. It's really tough to make because there's a couple moving pieces that need the actual seatbelt mechanism to lock in. And then on the opposite side, we got tape up here, so that when this lands all the way up, it's running into tape at least, and then it's running into foam at the bottom. So then we have all these, any places where inserts into metal, plastic to metal, I've wrapped those in interior tape. But you got some CCF, you got fiber mat, you got CLD tapes, the usual. You guys know the gig by now. A-pillars don't even have speakers going in them, but they are still CLD'd and CCF'd. Just do not want any vibrations. And then the last big pieces. So this one, I don't think I'm doing anything to in terms of modifying. This is the left side of the trunk, so this will get treated next. I just ran out of time today, so I'll do that. The other one that's under here may get modified, because I'm probably putting at least the monoblock behind it, and I really don't want to have it be completely buried. or like have like needing to remove multiple panels to get to it. It may just end up being that, because what are the really chances that I need to go service that besides setting the gain initially? So likely I'll just leave the panel out. We'll set the gain for the sub properly, and then I'll put the panel in and should never have to go back in there. So likely behind that panel, I plan to house the Eton tiny little micro amp and the MMATS 2000.2 in that cavity, because in this system you have we have the voids taken out, because one of the other piece, there is an insert here, but usually there's a factory subwoofer here, so I have a nice big void to work with. So I'll probably put the mono up there and the Eton up there, and probably this. That's what I'm trying to figure out, is whether I want to like face mount the circuit breaker in some sort of trim panel, but not sure yet. So these are opened up in here because the pressure vents are in here. So I'm going to take those out from the inside. And I have some, there's 2 sheets in here. MoFlow, which is the hydrophobic mesh that allows air to travel through but not moisture. So I'll cut some small pieces, and I'm basically going to build a CLD frame and open up those vents, take out the plastic flaps, and I will reduce the openings probably by 50%. And then I will apply, basically build a CLD picture frame and leave myself with some hydrophobic mesh, some openings that just stay permanently open, because the subs will push so much air that you'll get this kind of helicoptering effect if you've ever opened your windows while you're driving down the highway and you don't open enough, or you only open one window and it gets that doop, 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 doop kind of noise. Your pressure vents can do that with big enough subs. So this is basically to replace those. And then there's also another 24 by 24 sheet for whenever we cut the hole in here. So slowly working through the sub. I'm like gone between cone up, cone down. Looking a little closer today. Right here is a frame rail. So I cannot cut that. That's literally like suspension, struts, shocks are tied to that. And above that is differential and all those pieces. So basically from this forward is not cuttable. Still a huge area back here. I regret letting Miguel steal one of the 18s, because I would have done 2 18s probably. Maybe he'll be nice and give it back to me if we go that route. But even a single 18 in here will load exceptionally well. 24 is still in play, but I think if the 24 goes in, it's going to be coned down, because there's just no way. I don't see a way through with cone up in the depth that it is, and trying to fit the 4 RX2s and the DSP and have it all be under a false floor without losing more than 2 or 3 inches of depth is possible. It might be. I just need to look, because by the time I put the tub back in here, that kind of trims the whole trunk. That's more like out here. So then center of the sub, it's like, because 24 inches from even here is all the way out there. So like trying to think about getting an opening to recess the sub down, because that was really my plan, was hopefully that I could get like a, I don't know, an 18-inch hole and be able to recess the sub down like 4 inches. And that would gain me a whole bunch of play of like being able to float amps slightly above the cone on both sides, be able to like either put a DSP back here or have the amps kind of in a staircase fashion back here. But I don't know that that's going to happen with the cone facing up. So I'm not too worried about it. I'll see a way through this at some point. I just need to really push the rest of it along. I really need to get the front scan so Matt can get started on the mid-range and the sails without waiting for me, because he needs the info from the vehicle, and or I need to scan it, so I need to get the front of the car put back together. So that's really my next focus, and hopefully this Thursday I am going to get all that scanning done. This weekend I'm away. Maybe I'll work on it a little bit Sunday, but I doubt it. And then yeah, be continuing to push, and then next big push will be July 4th. Which I'm hoping by then the front of the car is, I plan to kind of do the dash and the front sub on that brake, And then after that, really, is really just the back, which is a lot of work for sure. I still got to do the sub and the whole amp rack, but if I can get the front of the car buttoned up for the most part through July 4th, with the exception of actually installing the sails and the mid-range pods, we'll be in good shape. So thank you guys. Slowly working its way forward, but feeling happy with the progress, and yeah, keep on keeping on. Thanks, guys.